right, good morning to you all. How's everybody doing? I hope that you're feeling well. Listen. It's a Saturday morning. I know you're getting up and getting the breakfast going. I know my wife is fixing some breakfast. I want to say good morning to you all. I hope that you're doing well. Hope that you're feeling well. Welcome to Saturday's morning's edition of Family Morning Transformation with yours truly, DMP Speaks. My name is David M. Pinkston, but I go by the name of DMP Speaks. I am an empowerment speaker. I'm a board certified Christian counselor and a family restoration specialist. I come on here Monday through Friday at 7:30 and of course on Saturday at 8:30. And I feel great. I hope that you and your family are feeling great. I just want to come and give you some nuggets, some tips, so also have conversations about certain things that you might be dealing with your family that might be difficult, and you're looking to grow or rebuild your family dynamic. And there's so many topics that we can talk about, but there's certain topics that I really want to hit. And one topic that I want to hit today is showing empathy, right? Showing the concern when you have a child that has like low self-esteem, low confidence in themselves, that really don't think of themselves in a high regard, or feel like they might be struggling in school, they're struggling in relationships at school, like being sociable. Maybe they have some social anxiety, and I want to just talk about that this morning, because showing that empathy when they have messed up, or they did something wrong, or there was an error, or whatever the situation is, we have to learn how to show empathy as parents and guardians to our children, not even when they mess up, when they feel low, because a lot of times empathy is shown when they mess up. But what if they just don't think of themselves in a higher regard? What if they don't like themselves, right? What if they're struggling emotionally? They're dealing with so much. And let me pause here. These young people that we have today, this generation, this particular generation, is dealing with so much more. Not saying that you and me or the generations before us that weren't dealing with situations and problems, and wanting to find out who they are, or just knowing where they want to go. They're dealing with so many things that we might not fully understand, right? We might have an idea. We feel like we might have an idea, but at times we might not. So we have to be able to show empathy. Showing empathy is so vitally important. And I looked up this information here. And I want to give you like the technical definition so that you'll understand where I'm coming from. So when it comes to empathy, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So let me read that again. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. You have to get an understanding of what your child is going through right now. You gotta you have to put yourself in their shoes. You ever heard that? We've heard that many, many times. But you absolutely positively, even as a parent guardian, you gotta see it from their perspective. You gotta see it from their particular lens, what they're dealing with on a daily basis. I had to open myself up to see um, and show empathy to my son where he was, right? Or where he is right now, trying to develop himself as an individual, trying to find himself in this world. I had to put myself in his shoes to see the amount of pressure that he might be dealing with. And some of your children might be dealing with this too, but they're not verbalizing that. But you have to be able to recognize that not only is there maybe like a problem or concern, that you need to find out what that particular problem, concern, or issue is, right? So you have to have an understanding. And again, it's the technical definition said the ability to understand. Some parents don't have the ability to understand because some of us, let's be honest, don't want to. Ooh, I know that hurt. But some of us don't have the ability because we don't make time for the ability to understand. We don't make time. We don't put enough of time. And I'm not talking about quality time today. I'm talking about time to sit down and understand. Have an understanding of where your child is. Having an understanding where they're lacking or they're slacking or they're decreasing in their own personal value, their own self-development. Maybe they're not really working on self-development. Maybe they're suffering emotionally, they're suffering psychologically, they're suffering relationally, and that's why a lot of the rifts that you might have with them come and stems from them not believing in themselves enough, not appreciating who they are, trying to be like somebody else, following, excuse me, the crowd, as they say, but not being their authentic selves. So you have to have the ability to understand. Sometimes we got to remove our idiosyncrasies. I may be saying it wrong. I'm a little tongue tied this morning, but we have to remove our thoughts, right? We got to remove our thoughts. I'll say it again. We have to remove our thoughts. We got to remove our thoughts. And I'm saying this over and over again because, or even our opinions. So, because sometimes our opinions can be wrong because we have certain assumptions, right? We assume this is what's going on with our child. We assume that's what's going on with our child. And 9 times out of 10 could be right, but there are times that could be wrong. And we have to have the ability to understand where our child is, what our child is looking to gain, where they're lacking, right? Where they are, their growth is stunting. And I'm not talking about in body, I'm talking about in mind, in emotional, psychological, spiritual, even. Where are they lacking? And we have to have the ability to recognize that. We have to have the ability, again, to recognize that. Let me say that again. We have to have the ability to recognize that. And then when we recognize that, we have to understand it to the best of our ability. Because so to understand that, we have to ask questions. We have to ask questions. Well, honey, what seems to be the problem? I see that your grades have went down. Instead of us just jumping on them, right? Now, it's one thing if they're not putting the effort in, right? The lack of effort is not there. That's one thing. Yeah, get on them. I'm telling you, open your mouth, say what you need to say, right? But in the context of you're not putting enough effort. But if they're putting in effort and they're struggling, that's another thing. See, that's where we show empathy because we have an understanding of what's going on. We see what they're struggling with. That's where the understanding. And then we share the feelings of another. So when we understand what they're dealing with, when we understand what they're struggling with, then we can share and we can also reflect and say, okay, this is exactly what you're dealing with. So then we can find solutions to your issues. We can find solutions to the problems that you might be having, right? We don't want to have a lack of empathy. I'll say it again. We don't want to have a lack or a decrease of empathy because they need our, not sympathy all the time. They need empathy, understanding. They need us to understand where they are. And some of us, let's be honest, we might not understand all the time. I'll go back around. We have to ask those questions. We have to be good nosy. The good nosy is, I want to know what's going on with you. I want to know how you're feeling right now. I want to know what's the problem. How can I help you? That's what a parent does. They go above and beyond so that empathy is understood. The problem is understood because you recognize, because you spent time, you slowed down, you put some things to the side and you said, how can I help you? I want to know what's going on. I'm here. Talk to me. Does that make sense, everybody? I just want to pause because I'm almost done. Does that make sense? Because I don't want to lose anybody. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but this is a problem because a lot of parents don't show enough of empathy, or they don't show empathy at all. There are some parents out there, some guardians, right, that do as I say, do or don't ask the questions. You better do this or else. That's a time and place for that, but that shouldn't always be your number one go-to response when they're struggling in certain areas, because that child is going to continue to shut down on you. They're not going to talk to you. I mean, some of you are going through that right now. They're not talking to you. They're isolating themselves in their rooms. They're finding ways not to talk to you because they feel like you don't understand. Every time that they talk to you, it's always a fight. Every time that they talk to you, you're always putting them down. Every time that they talk to you, it's never a great outcome. There's no love being shown. Again, there's no empathy being shown. So because there's no empathy being shown, they're not going to talk to you. So they're going to be dealing with this feeling, dealing with this emotion, dealing with this problem, dealing with this situation continuously, and not getting the answers that they need, not getting the empathy that they need. And they need that empathy for them to grow, for their development in their minds, for their development and their social ability. They need that. They need that. They need that relationally from you as the parent, as the guardian. If you are not giving that to them, how are they going to get that? A lot of kids, what they do, if they don't find empathy from the parents or the guardian or the grandmother, they find empathy in other places. And those other places might not be the greatest for them. And because those places might not be greatest for them, this is why we have unwanted pregnancies. This is why we have children that are have police involvement, that are on parole, that are on probation. And I know I'm sounding extreme, but empathy goes a long way. Because if this is where you lay your head down, this is where you spend most of the time after school and work and church and all this stuff, but they can't come and talk to you, you have no empathy for them, how do you expect them to talk? How do you expect them to communicate with you? You have to be open, and you have to have the ability. I go back to this again. You have to have the ability to understand where they are. You have to have the ability to understand where they are. You have to have the ability to understand what they're dealing with, because if you don't, you're not showing that empathy continues. I'm not saying that you can't say what you have to say, but you got to have some empathy. Because, okay, for instance, and I'm done. My father and my mother, especially my father, when he corrected me, oh boy, I tell you the truth, he corrected me. But I promise you, at the end of, before that conversation is done, I felt, not just heard, I felt empathy. I felt the empathy. He understood where I was coming from. Even my mom, they understood where I was coming from. Even though they're not going to slack on the punishment, they're not going to slack on correcting me, but there was still empathy at the end of that conversation. So I didn't leave that conversation feeling low. I felt bad because I disappointed them, but I didn't feel low in my spirit. I didn't feel low in my mind. I didn't feel low as a person, because they didn't beat on me to the point that there was no recovery. And a lot of you parents have been saying certain things to your children, right? And to your grandchildren, and there was no empathy in the correction. I'll say it again. There was no empathy, in the correction. When you are correcting them, you still got to show love. You still have to have some compassion for them and have the ability to understand what their feelings are, right? And validate those feelings. So it's important to have empathy. I know I kind of went in on that, but I feel that this is very important for all. And again, I want you to visualize, as I close, what do you want your family to look like when you have this empathy? What do you want your family to be when you have this empathy, when you implement empathy? I'm getting all tongue tied, so you got me some water. Empathy to your family. It's important, everybody. So before I close, I want to say this to you. Maybe you're having some difficulties. because you want your family to be what it's supposed to be. You want your family to be stronger, right? You want your relationship with your child to be stronger, but it's lacking that empathy. And as a father, you want to show that empathy, but it's hard, right? And you know that you feel bad about it, right? You know that you want to increase your conversations and communication and relationship with your child. Mom, you really want to be closer to your daughter, but you're missing that empathy piece. And you're missing certain pieces, but you're doing the best that you can. And I know that you are mom. I know that you are dad. I know you are grandma. I know you are granddad. But there are certain pieces that you might need in your toolbox, in your communication toolbox with your child or grandchild that you need. And you're saying, I've been trying to do this on my own, but this is not working. Listen, there is help. You don't have to do this by yourself. You don't have to struggle anymore, because things have been designed for you personally, for your family to be transformed, for your family dynamic to grow and to be rebuilt. Let me help you do that. So if you're interested in that help and you know that you need that help, don't hesitate. I want you to go all on my social media platforms. I want you to click on the link. I want you to sign up for your free 30-minute consultation call with me. And I'm going to do all that I can in my best of my ability to help you with your family dynamic and bring more empathy so that you have the ability to understand where your child is, their emotions, their feelings. Listen, thank you so much. Listen, catch me today at 2 p.m. for Speak Out Loud radio show on Fire 716. I'm going live, y'all. Brand new session there. You don't want to miss that. Guys, thank you so much. Catch me Monday morning, 7:30, as you're getting your coffee, getting your breakfast, getting out the house. Catch me, and also catch this replay. I thank you guys so much, and I want you all to have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace.